Sustainability is a conversation that's going on, obviously, all throughout the exposition here, multiple different talks about sustainability. It's a topic that sits on top of all of our minds today. Hopefully, today and this session is going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk more about factual-based thought process and data elements, more so than philosophy and thoughts and opinions about sustainability. To just give a little background on myself, to give the relevance of kind of where I'm coming from when we talk about sustainability, we talk about data, is I, like many of you in the room here today, spent my life in packaging. Over 20 plus years in the packaging business has led me here today to this discussion. What's also, I think, been very great for me and great for most people in packaging is based upon all the various roles I've had a chance, and I kind of make the joke, from seeing chickens killed to missiles made, right? So I've seen a pretty big breadth of stuff being done. And not just product being made, but also new product development, procurement, supply chain, shipping, logistics, all that through the course of this time in all different industries. And what led me to Specright, and then I'm going to transition to sustainability, is just so you get to understand who I am, is that I saw through these 20 years this frustration of languaging. Not just languaging against industry leaders or players and how they talk, but even intercompany. Different divisions, different departments, all talked about things differently and organized their data structures differently. That obviously was driven and overridden by another problem. Data was incomplete. It was missing, not accurate, maybe multiple sources, all different, and that really did not create efficiencies. And then lastly, and I think this is more historic, is data wasn't meant to be shared historically. And so a lot of the old systems don't have that attribute. And today, through sustainability and other initiatives, the expectation of sharing data and collaborating and creating these communities is there. So all that frustration led me to found Specright. I don't know what I bit off when I did it. It sounded very simple. It's been a very interesting journey and a great journey. But where I talk about, and I think it's a perfect lightning rod to the sustainability movement, is the water bottle, for instance. And what I look at in DNA of a product is getting to the granular level and then creating connections to that DNA. So you look at this, look at what kind of resin is built, how many pounds of paper, where's the cap and closure coming from, and is that duplicated through the supply chain? And then linking all the people that come together to make this together so they're on a community and a platform to talk. And then allows you to do all these amazing things. And in full disclosure, when I started Specright, the thought process of making it a sustainability tool was not there. What I started to realize, because of the data structures and the millions of data elements that we're starting to put together, is it's a natural way for sustainability to be successful. And we'll talk about that. So that's where I'm led today to talk about. I'm going to really break the conversation up into three different topics. We're going to define sustainability, really through the vantage point of a lot of research we're doing, not just stuff that's written. We're going to talk about the state of sustainability today, and how does that look? And then ultimately, kind of the pitch of the whole thing is making sustainability a reality, as I spill water on myself. So how to define sustainability? It's interesting, I had everybody write a piece on how they believe sustainability was, or what it meant to them. What you saw through that process is every employee wrote it slightly different from the other one. So everybody's got a slightly different opinion or view what sustainability means to them. So one thing I'm going to tell you today is I'm not going to give you an opinion on what sustainability is. I'm not going to tell you how to think about it, how to feel about it, to think that the water bottle is bad or good. That's not the point of this conversation. I think that's a lot of conversation going on, and I tend to not to want to be part of that. So I encourage our employees that what we're really trying to do is facilitate the relationship of whatever somebody believes sustainability is to the outcome and help that process. So what we did is picked up a couple just to show how vague. There's some big noteworthy comments on sustainability, just to show how different the thoughts are. Responsibility of the life cycle of packaging and environmental impact. And we're going to talk about packaging being the lead of sustainability in a minute. Sustainability means mitigating the impact of our actions on the environment. That's a pretty common thought process. And actually the one I like the best, uniquely enough coming out of a political arena, would be meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Would have been kind of cool if somebody thought about that 100 years ago, but here we are today. So this shows how different the opinions are of that, but all of it resonates towards one thing. You have to know where you're at. You have to know the status you're at today. So kind of a timeline horizon of how sustainability has taken place through history. Happy to say I don't know a lot about the first column. I lived in the middle column primarily. But I do remember growing up and hearing the stories of really that's where the dumps started and the kind of the whole process of trash collection started. But really the words, when you do the research, that really stand out: industrialization, a disposal culture, and inactive. We did a lot of research, and those are kind of common words that used to describe that era. The era I'm more familiar with: confrontation, extra cost, reactive. It's funny, I think in the early 90s, I was living in New York City in the packaging business, and we had, anybody's been around then, what we used to do is put the trash on a boat and go to the ocean and dump it. And I remember sustainability wasn't talked about a lot back then, but I remember just sitting there going, that doesn't sound really smart. I don't get why this is a good idea. Obviously, we found out today it's not, and they're trying to clean all that work up, right? So not a very progressive era of sustainability and trash collection and the life cycle of stuff. To today, obviously, that's why we're all here, right? We looked at every sustainability speech at PAC Expo has been full, and this one's full, thank goodness. I was hoping there wasn't just going to be one person. So, but the key words today: collaboration. How do you share what's going on? How do you drive cost out at the same time you do that? It doesn't necessarily always have to be a plus. How do you do that? And proactive, being ahead of the problem before it strikes you. I think the coolest thing about this little snippet here is I get somewhat depressed because I hear sustainability talked about a lot and nothing's being done, right? And that's a big picture thing. And obviously stuff's being done. But what's cool about it is the awareness is there. The trend is in the right direction, is what I would say is the positive out of the negative. Next thing we did to try to really understand sustainability is we went to every big company's kind of sustainability write-up and figured out what was common. And this took, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of pages we had to read through and find common themes. We found 7 common themes. Found a lot of outliers, kind of one-offs here and there, but every one of these topics was in over 100 different sustainability pieces. Goals typically divided into product, people, and planet. Include audits and reporting. Have budget and equipment investments earmarked in the future. Alignment with standards to achieve compliance. That one gets a little funky because then all of a sudden it spins off into a bunch of different ways to do that and different compliance metrics. But they all have that in common. Include supplier facility, and product audits, responsibility sourcing. I tell you, number 5 is a lot about what I'm going to talk about as we conclude. 6, certificate programs, land-free, kind of any of the FSC, any of those type of things are very important. And focus on end-of-life management, extended useful life of products, returnables, et cetera. So kind of interesting. There's some 7 common themes. I'm one that likes simplicity. My office is empty. There's nothing on my desk. But I think we could do away with thousands of pages and write those 7. That's what everybody's trying to say if we sum them all down. And everybody's trying to accomplish them a little bit different. So the next thing we did is we researched and we sent out a survey written in the packaging person's mind. How do you talk? How do you dialogue? Not a consultant. How do we talk about it? And then how does it affect you? And this is just a couple snippets of the whole research piece. They can be captured from us later if you're interested in deeper dives. But in general, 80% of companies have a sustainability goal. We kind of know that, but it is, I'll tell you, there's still some out there that aren't focusing on it. Gets a little bit more granular and more interesting. And this was kind of really interesting is how do you define, how do you verbiage, how do you create the outcome of the answers you want? And what it really came away with is the way we worded it is that people are being sustainable because the pressure they're feeling. Okay, and the pressure is coming from multiple sources. It can be the consumer to a retailer to a product manufacturer, right? Those were the primary issues driving. And why that's important is because if you're addressing a pressure point, you have to be able to respond with data back to them to tell you that there's progress being made, if that's the core of your belief. We look here, executive leadership, 23%. So it's not the key driver. It's obviously important. It's behind the initiative. And then obviously on down. And you can look at employees and investors, kind of the same as market. It's just pure pressure. It's just outward pressure towards sustainability. This is, I think, a really telling slide, and I don't think it's shocking, but packaging bears the burden of a sustainability initiative in the company. Two really cool things that come out of this, in my quick opinion. One is packaging in my life has always been the last thing thought of. Right before it has to go to market, we need the package, right? We're shifting the paradigm, and packaging is becoming the sustainability initiative leader for everybody. It's really changing the power position and the importance of packaging in the industry. And never has it really been a forefront piece of the process. Supply chain, obviously next, product development, and obviously these can stack on top of themselves, have multidimensional. But most package departments have a sustainability initiative. And how are they expected to do that? The material usage really was the number one driver of are there success or not success. Less bad materials and more awareness of what they're using. Reduced energy, obviously, and it goes on down. But really, so packaging is important, reduction of materials is important, and it's being driven by the retail and outside influences. So the other interesting thing is, okay, so you got this world that's expecting information, and then how are you capturing information? And not surprisingly, most people are doing it on spreadsheets and kind of their own methods. And then how are you reporting that back out? Well, it's not that easy. Some do it in a QMS system, some are doing it in other systems, some don't know, which is kind of interesting. I don't know how you don't know, but you don't know. So again, a very influential influencer to change the way we're doing business, landing on packaging's world and desk with not a lot of technology supporting it. This is a line that most people get kind of tired of hearing when they're around me. You can only measure to the level that you capture. I'm working on a really cool project for a major retailer, and we're working with 800 of their vendors to capture very granular level of detail to truly drive a real world-class sustainability initiative. That's because they got this. I said it, and they got it in 2 minutes. And you cannot be sustainable at the BOM level. It's just not possible. So how do you go from there? How do you make it sustainability a reality, irregardless of the system you use or the processes you use? The encouragement is to go as low as you can in the data trail. And how do you do that? Well, it's hard, right? Well, that's a lot of work. You have people that have hundreds of thousands of specifications or 10,000 BOMs. How do you do that? I said it before, but enabling your vendor community to populate that data or help you with that data transfer is really critical. We're in this together, and that dialogue can take place. So you have to measure. You have to look at what's at the spec level, and that's why I bring a water bottle to tie it in. As I said, how many pounds of that label are you using? How much ink is going into that? What's the throw on the throat and the neck? How much plastic is there, right? Where's it coming from? That's the type of level you need to measure, and then you have to be able to instantly analyze. You have to be able to benchmark and give visualization. People need visualization. People need to see, are you on a journey? Are you making progress on this journey, right? And that you can't do that if you can't visualize. We're talking about this interesting comment somebody who works for me made today is that we're a very visual business. We hear, we visualize, that's how things are going on around us. And same with sustainability. We have to visually see the transformation that we're going through. And most importantly, and this is the part that I get hung up on, you have to take action. It's great to have great thoughts. You know, I love all these big speeches that we're going to reduce this and we're going to do that. Well, that's cool. 2029 is a long ways away. What are we doing today? Like, how are we going to move the bar forward? And so you have to be able to take action. And it's granular. It's annoying, right? I talk about you need to know the water spec. You need to know the soil spec. You need to know the seed spec. You need to know the carrot spec and the bag spec and the plastic spec and the water spec for the plastic. It's very hard. But again, if we start this community effect and start sharing this data structure and these flows, we're seeing some really cool stuff that people can take action on. So you have to ask your organization to go deeper. When you get the answer, you go deeper and deeper in the process. So you look at packaging. Again, we all agreed. The cool news is we're popular today. Everybody likes us. Bad news is we have this huge burden on our shoulders of 50 years of bad history, right? It's kind of a weird spot. And we're not being given the technology to fix it. So, or the resources, right? And obviously the schools are pumping out some phenomenal students and they're in great demand because this is a major problem we're all focused on right now. You have to understand, what's in it? What's the granular level of detail? What's the ink? What kind of ink is it? How much ink is being used? Where's the suppliers in the process? I'm saying they're so pivotal in this process. We often look at the relationship of supplier to sustainability in kind of an awkward relationship of, I might want to displace you because I don't know if you're doing good or bad. I got this cool new project product somebody showed me, but I don't know if it fits. I would say enable them. Get this granular level of detail. Where's this stuff coming from? It's really cool if you get something really sustainable, however somebody defines that, and it has to travel across the world. It's not quite the same as if it comes up the street. There's a lot of different pieces to this pie, right? But you can only come up with solid conclusions with data, regardless of how you do it. You need the data, not the emotion and not the sales pitch, the data. So you tie all this together and you share and you let everybody live in this world together, right? And obviously the manufacturing. You know, what's funny is, you know that generally there's a very high acceptable level of reject process in the process is built in. You know, 8%, 9%, 6%, doesn't really matter. If we just tackled that one issue, we'd be the most sustainable country in the world, right? But everybody kind of glosses over that. So what products are waste? What are you getting rid of that? How are you doing that? How are you seeing that trend line? Nobody talks about that. So it looks like this, whether it's your system, it's not about our system. I believe if everybody starts focusing on this, irregardless of how they're doing it, we're gonna all get better collectively, the more data we have together. Granular data, organized in a nice structured format. Everything's there quickly, right? So you can measure it. You can analyze it. You can instantly know, am I winning or am I losing, right? Is it good or bad? And not in an opinion, again, it's on a factual basis. So your boss walks in, the retailer walks in, the consumer wants to know, are you doing better or are you doing worse? It's very simple, it's graphical. I'm using less of this, it is coming from closer distance, and therefore I'm doing better. Or this product is going this direction and we need to pay attention to it. Our waste yield's going up. We've got to find out why to drive it back down. And then action, quickly. You know, that's one thing I'm always on top of is the world's moving so fast. And we historically have not been asked to move that fast in packaging 20 years ago, right? A new design took, 4 weeks, it was fast, right? Now it's days, hours, but we got to speed up. We got to take some gut. We've been doing this for so long, we know the right way to do things. Let's figure it out and move and do it again, right? So you got to have action. And we've got a sustainability study about this, but I go back to some of the key things: reliance on your vendor community, granular, keep going deeper and deeper in your data structure. So in conclusion, a perspective is it's not me. I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about doing it differently. I'm passionate about data. I'm passionate about packaging. It all comes together to create a really cool world. So the perspective is to serve as a foundation of choosing various sustainability goals. Again, stepping back, don't have an opinion. I have a personal opinion I'm not going to share. You all have your opinion. It's how do you get to whatever you think sustainability is in your definition. Deliver insights and visibility. Share. It's a community. We need to share. If you found a great path, I technically figured out that this matches this, and we create these data connections. This can be displaced by this. Share that logic, that path. Let's get there faster. And then to let you decide what sustainability means to your organization. And then build the data structure behind that and the visibility to the people expecting us to be doing this and what's happening. Good and bad. Let's be transparent and share where it's failing and how we connect and come back together again. So again, I'm never that exciting of a speaker because I talk about very boring, granular, detailed data stuff. But that's where the answers are at, and that's where I'm seeing some amazing things. The rest of it, we just kind of layer on, and you're going to learn a lot more from other people on sustainability. I'm just going to talk about how data drives sustainability for everybody.